The core danger to one's life often isn't the clear enemy in the open but the poison that hides behind a smile, the toxic people, manipulators, liars, and emotional parasites. They feed on your goodwill and drain your vital strength. The common, and often fatal, error is to confront them with emotion and lose everything. A wise person, a strategist, never plays the fool's game. To truly defeat these individuals, you must abandon mercy and emotion in favor of cold, strategic clarity. What follows are 7 unyielding laws for dealing with toxic people, principles rooted in the calculated realism of Machiavellian thought. Law 1. Embrace the silence of surveillance. The fool argues, the wise man watches face with monocle. The toxic person thrives on confrontation and drama. The moment you challenge them directly, you enter their arena, a space where they are trained to win, not through truth, but through a brutal, exhausting war of attrition. They want you angry, defensive, and desperate to prove yourself. Your first move must be to refuse the bait. Silence is not weakness, it is surveillance. The hunter doesn't roar at the lion before the strike, he crouches, studies the beast, and learns its every movement. Observe in stillness, let the toxic individual speak, act, and expose themselves. They cannot help it. Their flaws, insecurities, and hunger for validation will pour out. Resist the burning temptation to respond. Disarm their weapon. When you remain calm, you strip them of their greatest weapon, your emotional reaction. They expect war but find only a wall of stillness. This unnerves them, as they cannot control what does not respond. The calculated wait, each time they speak, you are noting a weakness. Each time they act, you are marking a pattern. Like a general studying a camp, you are learning the map of their destruction. Let them believe they are in control, in truth, you are the one gathering power in silence. The moment they underestimate you is the moment you become untouchable. Law 2. Control the battlefield and change the rules. Never on their terms, always on yours. Power is inextricably tied to the ground upon which you stand. A toxic person is strongest in chaos, gossip, and public confrontation. Their battlefield is noise, and they will always try to pull you onto it, knowing you will drown where they swim with ease. A strategist, however, never fights where the enemy commands the terrain. You must choose the ground and bend the rules of engagement. Shift the location. If they attempt to provoke you at work, in public, or in front of an audience they can manipulate, do not grant them that stage. If they shout, speak softly and demand to speak in private. If they throw accusations, reply only in writing where every word is measured, permanent, and devoid of emotion. Invalidate their weapons, force every interaction to happen where you hold the control. If they want a game of emotional storms, reply with cold, undeniable reason. If they seek a battle in the mud, gossip/rumors, you insist on fighting on stone, verifiable facts. Subtle redirection, do not announce this shift. To declare your strategy is to weaken it. Redirect with such subtlety that they never realize the ground beneath their feet has changed until their claws are dull and their poison has no effect. Control the environment, and you effectively strangle their influence before they can unleash it. Law 3. Starve the parasite of attention. Indifference is the ultimate humiliation prohibited. Toxic people feed not on truth or justice, but on attention. They are parasites of energy. Each sigh, argument, or flash of anger you give them is fuel for their fire. Your reaction confirms their power to disturb your peace, and they will return again and again to feed. The most devastating strike is to give them nothing. No spark, no fuel, no reaction. Become the void. A toxic person can scream, insult, and plot, but without your reaction, their words echo into emptiness. You must become as if deaf to their noise, blind to their gestures, and utterly untouchable to their provocation. Deny significance. Indifference is worse to them than war, for war at least grants them significance. Indifference tells them they are nothing. The moment you argue, you elevate them to an equal opponent. When you refuse to feed them, you reduce them to dust. Restraint is power, your pride will burn with the urge to strike back, but power is found in restraint. Every moment you do not respond, you gain strength. Every silence you hold is a fortress they cannot breach. You are not running, you are refusing to grant battle in the first place, conserving your energy while they weaken themselves with their own noise. Law 4, wield the mask of strategic concealment. Never hand them your truth-performing arts. Once silence has starved them and indifference has stripped their fuel, the fourth law demands you master deception. Your truth, in the wrong hands, is not noble, it is a weapon they will twist, mock, and exploit. To deal with them, you must never be naked in truth. The shield and weapon, the mask is a tool that allows you to control what others see. Project strength when you are uncertain, calm when you are boiling, and disinterest when you are calculating. A toxic person cannot fight what they cannot read. The art of ambiguity, smile when you must, nod when it serves you, but reveal nothing within. Let them attack the mask, an illusion, never realizing the true self remains untouched, waiting, and watching. Fog of uncertainty, by concealing your desires, intentions, and plans, you force the toxic person into a fog of uncertainty. They cannot measure you or predict you. This uncertainty breeds fear, and fear makes them careless and desperate, leading them to reveal themselves more openly than ever before. You owe the toxic person no truth, you owe yourself protection. Law 5, destroy without striking. Let their own poison betray them. Snake. Direct conflict is costly, it drains your time, energy, and peace. The most elegant form of strength is to win without fighting, to let others and circumstances destroy the toxic individual while your mask remains intact. This is the power of the indirect strike. Expose their nature. A toxic person's arrogance, lies, and endless hunger for validation are weapons turned inward. Your role is simply to create the conditions in which their own poison betrays them. Let them overpromise, let their words contradict themselves, or let them show their cruelty too openly until others see them for what they truly are. Wield others as a shield. Why battle them directly when their arrogance will eventually offend someone more powerful than you, or their manipulation will catch the eye of a sharper mind? Position yourself so you are never the target, but always the observer. The innocent hand, when others move against your enemy, you remain clean and silent. The toxic one is undone not by your attack, but by the weight of their own corruption and the natural reaction of those they once deceived. You achieve victory without lifting a sword, your hands remain innocent, and your image untarnished. Law 6, execute the clean, merciless cut. Sever without warning or debate. Kitchen knife. There comes a point where endurance must give way to liberation. Some poisons are too dangerous to simply weaken, they must be removed entirely. When this time comes, you must cut cleanly and without warning. Preservation over mercy. Mercy is a weakness in the face of poison. The fatal mistake is to give warnings, explanations, or long farewells. This prepares the toxic person for the break, giving them time to manipulate, threaten, or poison the minds of others. The surgeon's precision. You are the surgeon who discovers infection. You do not negotiate with the disease, you take the knife and remove what will kill the patient. When the time has come, you do not debate, you do not justify, and you do not allow bargaining. You sever ties swiftly, mercilessly, and without hesitation. Decisive absence. If you must block, you block. If you must walk away, you vanish as if the relationship never existed. This act is not cruelty, it is preservation. The toxic person, who once fed on your reaction, now faces the terror of absence, left to rage into an emptiness that gives them nothing back. Law 7, the final victory is achieved in silence. Your life speaks louder than words. Crown. The final law, the crown upon all others, is the law of absolute silence. True victory is never shouted or paraded, it is lived. The loudest declaration, your silence is the loudest declaration of indifference. It is the refusal to play their game, a declaration that they no longer exist in your world. You do not waste words on them, because your life is the message. A monument of peace, every success you build, every step you rise, and every peace you enjoy is a dagger into the heart of their illusion of control. While they rage, you rest. While they plot, you build. Your life becomes a monument to what they could never destroy, your discipline, your power, and your peace. The immeasurable threat: when you refuse to explain yourself, you leave them in an uncertainty that corrodes them from within. They cannot measure you, cannot predict you, and cannot control you. In this silence, you become larger than life. You do not need to convince the toxic one of your worth, you let your silence carry the message that you are beyond their reach. To master the toxic is to master yourself. You have starved them, masked yourself, shifted the battlefield, struck indirectly, and cut them off. Now, you reign in silence. Go forward not as the prey, but as the one who controls the board, untarnished by the venom of the weak. Law 8. Use their need for validation as a leash. Exploit the ego's blind spot fishing pole. The toxic individual's greatest weakness is their insatiable need for external validation and feeling superior. They crave applause, recognition, and the feeling of being the most important or most victimized person in the room. Offer calculated scraps. You must learn to administer this validation in small, controlled doses, like a master feeding a wild beast, just enough to keep it docile, but never enough to empower it fully. A subtle compliment about their intelligence, a nod to their superior strategy, or a momentary agreement with a trivial opinion is all it takes. The leash of dependence. This technique establishes a psychological leash. By being one of the few sources they believe truly understands their brilliance or suffering, you gain temporary influence. This allows you to guide their actions toward an objective that serves your own safety or their eventual downfall. Manipulate the narrative. When they are seeking praise, you can steer them to a new, time-consuming project, one that keeps them away from your life. When they seek sympathy, you can subtly encourage them to reveal more of their paranoia to others, thus confirming their instability in the eyes of a wider audience. They think they are winning your favor. In truth, they are walking into a meticulously laid trap of their own design. Law 9. Control the circle, infect and isolate. Weaponize their reputation shield. A toxic person is strongest when they have a base of support, whether a circle of flying monkeys, a group of confused onlookers, or a naive benefactor. Your next move is to cut their influence by turning their network into your shield. The poison spreads. You do not directly attack their reputation, you allow their nature to do the work. The greatest risk to their public image is themselves. Your job is to make sure the right people are present to witness the performance. The subtle warning: to others, speak not with accusation, but with sincere, calm concern. I worry about them, they seem so stressed, their version of events is so different from what I saw, I hope they're okay. This plants a seed of doubt that forces the observer to question the toxic person's stability and reliability. The ring fence of power. By quietly gaining the trust of their allies, you effectively isolate the toxic individual. When the time for the final cut arrives, Law 6, they will be shocked to find that the support system they thought was solid has already been compromised. They will have no audience, no witnesses, and no one to run to for rescue. Law 10. Master the art of the vanishing act. Absence is not retreat, it is irrelevance ghost. The concept of cutting ties, Law 6, is a one-time, decisive event. The vanishing act is a longer, sustained strategy of psychological warfare designed to remove yourself not just physically, but dimensionally from their world. The slow fade. You must make yourself increasingly scarce, not with drama, but with boring, polite unavailability. Return calls with delays. Reply to emails with vague, non-committal answers. Meet in inconvenient locations or at times when you are forced to leave early. The terror of the void. The toxic mind thrives on being able to locate, track, and predict its victim. When you begin to vanish, when your presence becomes an elusive shadow, they are forced to expend enormous energy just to find you. This internal expenditure is a self-inflicted wound. Irreversible irrelevance. Do not offer an explanation for your distance, offer only silence and a life that is demonstrably better without them. Your continued success and peace, divorced entirely from their narrative, is a cold, continuous insult. You are not fleeing, you are simply existing in a dimension they can no longer access. They eventually realize the terrible truth: you are not angry at them, you simply no longer think of them at all. Law 11, set the precedent of ruthlessness. Be feared, not just respected. Cold face. The ultimate power over a toxic person, or anyone who might become one, is the certainty of your response. They must know, with an absolute clarity that chills them, that to cross your boundaries results in swift, disproportionate, and unmerciful consequences. Establish the legend. You must allow 1 or 2 clear instances to become known where you handled a threat not with kindness, but with strategic brutality. This could mean exposing a small lie, ruining a minor opportunity, or enforcing a boundary with a severity that surprises everyone. The unspoken contract. This action establishes a precedent. When they consider attacking you, the fear of your retaliation must immediately outweigh the pleasure of their potential victory. They will test those who they believe are soft or emotional. They will avoid those who have proven they are prepared to burn the house down to defend their territory. The necessary cruelty, as Machiavelli advised: if you must injure someone, injure them so completely that they cannot seek revenge. This is not about being cruel daily, but about the capability for cruelty being undeniable. Your reputation for quiet, effective ruthlessness becomes its own invisible shield. Law 12, never fight on principle. Fight only for gain. Money bag. Toxic people attempt to lure you into battles of morality, right versus wrong, or arguments over emotional principles. These battles are traps. They cost you peace, time, and emotional energy, offering no material gain even if you win. The pragmatic calculation. The strategist ignores the moral outrage and asks only one question: what do I gain by engaging here? If the answer is merely, to be right, then silence is the only profitable course of action. The currency of power. Only fight when the stake is tangible and consequential: your reputation, your resources, your career, or your inner peace. If the toxic person tries to start a debate about who was ruder, you disengage. If they try to steal credit for your work, you fight with documents and witnesses because the gain is material. Weaponize their principles. You must never confuse your desire for justice with their need for drama. Let them drown in their own moral righteousness while you quietly advance in the areas that matter. While they are screaming about fairness, you are silently securing a strategic position, a new job, a new home, a new ally. Your victory is not in the debate, it is in the tangible, undeniable improvement of your life. Law 13, cultivate an air of unpredictability. Keep them in suspended terror. Tornado. The toxic person believes they have solved you. They think they understand your triggers, your weaknesses, and your predictable moral code. This predictability is their key to manipulation. You must shatter this by becoming formless and unpredictable. Break the pattern, do the opposite of what is expected. If they expect a dramatic emotional explosion, give them an eerie, flat laugh and change the subject. If they anticipate you will defend a friend, instead, you might agree with the toxic person's point in a cold, analytical manner. The unknowable threat, unpredictability, keeps the enemy off balance. They cannot plan their next attack if they cannot predict your defense. Their attempts to bait you will falter because the desired reaction is never delivered. This forces them into a continuous state of anxiety and overthinking. The fluid self. The goal is to make them fear what you might do next. They will imagine scenarios far worse than anything you could actually inflict. In their mind, you transition from a predictable victim to a calculated variable, a terrifying prospect for a manipulator who requires control. Law 14, demand documentation for every interaction. Eliminate the battlefield of words. Memo. The toxic person thrives on verbal chaos, accusations, shifting narratives, whispered slanders, and later denying what they said. You must remove the element of verbal ambiguity entirely. The stone tablet rule: for any matter of substance, a work assignment, a financial discussion, a commitment, a necessary correction, force the engagement into writing. Thank you for the update, but to keep track, could you just send me a brief email summarizing that, or I'll need that request in writing to process it. The permanent record, once documented, their words are measured, permanent, and undeniable. This strategy neutralizes their two primary weapons, deniability and the speed of gossip. They cannot backtrack on a written statement, and they cannot escalate an argument when every point must be typed out and reviewed. Weaponize formality. By insisting on formality and documentation, you appear professional, organized, and focused on facts. The toxic person, who is emotionally driven, suddenly finds the environment hostile to their tactics. They will often retreat, as the energy required to manipulate a formal record is far greater than the energy required to manipulate a private conversation. Law 15, the doctrine of utility. You are not a confidant, you are a strategist gear. Your final assessment of a toxic person must be detached and purely utilitarian. They are not a person to be rescued, fixed, or pitted. They are merely an asset or a liability. The cold balance sheet: continuously evaluate the toxic individual based on a single metric: do they offer more utility than they create chaos? If a coworker's connections outweigh their drama, you tolerate them, but you keep your guard up. The moment the chaos exceeds the utility, the cut, Law 6, is mandatory. Use, don't be used. If you maintain limited contact, it must be because you are extracting something of value, information, access, or a strategic shield. You owe them nothing, they are a tool in your arsenal. The moment they break, you discard them. No sympathy, no enslavement, you must banish sympathy. Sympathy for a toxic person is merely the key they use to lock your chains. They will constantly cry victimhood, you must see it only as a manipulation tactic. Your purpose is not to be kind, it is to preserve your kingdom.